Welcome to Double M Global Media. My name is Maura DK, and today we are at the Peruse desk of Double M Global Media, where we focus on the news making headline and also have a parting shot of things that are pertinent in our lives. And today we are going to start off by the promises made during campaigns of the 2022 that were followed by taxations, and how are the ways to deal with the high cost of living among the highest determinants of who to be elected in 2027. Is this high cost of living becoming the groundwork for campaigners for 2027? We need to ask ourselves why all the promises that were so sweet in our ears have come to a standstill. Or are we headed to a brighter future? Is it the dusk before the dawn? Time will tell, because time heals everything. But the fact remains that a lot of people are suffering right now during this time because of hardships and high cost of living. School holidays are here. How safe are our children at home? More scary, how safe are the young boys who have undergone the rite of passage, that is circumcision, in their cubicles? What can a parent do to ensure that their children are not mistreated, keeping in mind there have been cases of severe harassment, some causing death? This is crude and this is barbaric. We are living in a new era of technological advancement, knowledge, wisdom, medicine, and it is always possible to practice safe rite of passage. There are doctors out there, and we urge parents to get involved. These are not the time that people used to go to the forest. This is a time that we care about infections and infectious communicable diseases, and it is important to know that rite of passage is not the end of civilization. Although it's very important for our children to go through that, but let us observe civility. KEBS although authorizes that a 30 billion worth of imported cooking oil from Malaysia is not edible and so not safe for human consumption. It demands the oil to be exported back to the supplier under the expense of the importer, or rather it will spoil the consignment. We talked yesterday about checks and balances and checking the validity and the value of what we are bringing into our country. It is one thing to bring materials for construction, but is another to bring consumable goods, especially cooking oil. It is very sad that we have had these issues before with sugar, rice, with mercury, all these imported products that come to damage us. And we will have a session to talk about carcinogenics, cancer-causing organisms or chemicals. We need to talk about this because it's affecting our population and it's affecting our healthcare and it's affecting our pocket. How can we import cooking oil that is not edible? On a sad note, a woman was attacked by hyenas in Kiambu County in Georgia. The governor of Kiambu, Mr. Kimani Wamatangi, accuses KWS of reluctancy in their job. The woman is the 8th person to be attacked by hyenas in the country. We have agencies that are responsible for wild animals in the zoos and in national parks. Kenya WS is one of the organizations, the government also. How are they protecting our vulnerable population, especially women and children, against these rogue animals that are roaming into the villages and into our neighborhoods? We need to have that checks and balances done, and there has to be some policies and compensation mechanisms to cater for these kind of menace. Kenya to benefit from 680 billion at COP28 climate change meeting in Dubai. The funds are to facilitate grid technology projects in the country. But there is a food for thought. Will the fund be appropriated? How many people understand the green technology projects and what they are? And that aside, how many people understand what climate change is all about? These are questions that we need to start tackling about. We need to start digging deep. When we are told that we need to enter into green energy, into fossil fuel, into oil production, and all these green technologies, what exactly are we talking about? It's not only about planting trees. We know we talk about environmental conservation and preservation of our natural resources, but when we go deeper, talk about climate change, how much do you understand what climate change is all about? And when we talk about 680 billion coming in for climate change and green energy, are these money going to be appropriated for that purpose? And in my parting shots, I want to talk about appropriation. What is appropriation? Appropriation is when money is set aside for a specific purpose. A company or government appropriates funds in order to delegate cash for the necessities of its operation. Appropriation tells us how money or capital is being allocated, whether it's through a national government's budget or a company's use of cash and capital. Appropriation by governments are made for national funds each year for various programs. When we talk about appropriation in business, we talk about corporate appropriation refers to how a company allocates its funds and can include share buybacks, dividends, paying down debt, and purchases of fixed assets. When we talk about fixed assets, properties, plants, and equipments, in short, how a company allocates capital spending is important to investors and the long-term growth prospects of a company. If appropriation of a publicly run company is important for the investors, how important it is for the citizens of our country to understand our budget, to understand how money is appropriated for different projects and how this money ends up doing exactly that. My question is, we talked about Kenya will receive 680 billion for green energy. When we talk about appropriation, that is money set aside for that purpose. We need to understand, because some of this money comes in terms of loans. Government makes money in three different ways. Number one, either they borrow from external market, that is World Bank, other organization. Two, they do domestic borrowing. Three, they raise money from taxes and revenue collection. When we talk about all these, all that kitty is brought in and budgeted as appropriated money for different budgets. The problem comes not from collecting of the revenue, not acquiring and facilitation of loans, but appropriation of these funds. Even when this money is disbursed in the devolved government, money coming to the county government, to the constituencies, to the ward level, we feeling the impact of the appropriated funds? Are the projects that the money is set aside for accounted for? Are we receiving the benefits of what we are paying? Or are we chewing too much of what we can swallow? Biting more than we can swallow. Parting thoughts, Maura DK, Double M Global Media. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let us meet again tomorrow as we continue to have these thoughts, as we continue to seek ways on how to better our nation. Double M Global Media, Maura DK.